Hello everyone! My name is Martina and I'm going to talk about my first experience at Empire LARP. So if you are new to LARP, so am I, so this is a great place to be. I attended Empire LARP, which is UK's largest live-action roleplay, and it is organized by a company called Profound Decisions. The first thing you do to be involved in Empire LARP is that you go to their website and you have to create a character. And I was very excited about that. It's very much in like a Dungeons & Dragons RPG gaming vibe, where you pick your nation. There are 10 nations in the Empire, and I picked a nation called Wintermark. Wintermark is they are Vikings, but they're not Vikings. They are inspired by like Anglo-Saxons, the Rohirrim, that kind of stuff. And yep, that is my cat going absolutely crazy on that chair. Anyway, I wanted to create that because I am Norwegian. So for me, that was something that I kind of knew a lot about the vibes, and I have been to a lot of medieval festivals back in Norway, so I had a lot of kits and a lot of costume that would fit in Wintermark. So that was the decision that I made to join Wintermark as my first character. My character's name is Ylva Sivardsdottir. She is a mystic in Wintermark that is kind of a mage or a magician. She belongs to the night realm in magic. In Empire, all magic is connected to the different realms. That is either summer, spring, winter, autumn, day or night, and you pick one of them, and the night one really spoke to me because it's all about mysticism and secrets. So that felt very much like something I wanted to do. This video is not going to be about a lot of information about the actual game. I'm not going to go through the lore or the story or the different things you can be in all the nations, that kind of stuff, because I am not the right person to do that. This is a video that's just going to be about my experience personally as a first-time LARPer, and hopefully that might teach some of you something, or at least it's teaching me a lot. And I think that's also why I wanted to record this video, so that I will remember this experience. So last weekend I went to LARP for the first time. It's always something that I have just assumed that I would love to do. I come from an acting background, from a cosplay background. I've played a lot of D&D. I've just always loved anything in that kind of universe. So I thought, hey, LARP is the next step. So I brought with me my friend, and we were gonna go and test it out for our group of friends and come back and tell them how it was like, so that they would decide whether or not they wanted to join us for the next time around. And I did some preparation. I, of course, created my character, made my costume. It was something I was very comfortable with. And I was looking at the wiki, which is an insane and vast collection of information that is absolutely impossible to get through. Also, it gets updated all the time, so it's really impossible to fathom the whole universe. But I wanted to be as prepared as I possibly could. I think that comes from my acting background. When you're going into a play or a production, you know, you learn your script, you do your analysis, you do your research. So I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be the best LARPer that has ever existed. Well, so I rocked up on the Friday at around 10 a.m. in the morning. I live in London, so it wasn't too bad of a drive. My friend was driving, and we were just enjoying ourselves. We were listening to a podcast in the car, which is a shout out to LARP Tales. I have listened to every single episode to really get myself in the mood and to prepare myself for what might come. And yeah, we drove there and we had borrowed a tent. We were gonna be in a in-character tent for the first time. I had heard from other people that they like to start off not being in the in-character place first time around, but I was like, hey, let's go, let's do it. let's do the full thing. So yeah, we rocked up, we put up our tent, which actually was surprisingly easy. I was expecting it to take 2 or 3 hours. And that gave us some time to go to some of the amazing things that PD arranges for new players. So I went to the new player meeting and got some information. It was great, but I also left a bit more confused than when I entered. But I was like, that's fine. I will figure this out. I also went to a fabulous little session of public speaking, which I really, really loved, because I just got to meet some of the other people there, and yeah, just trying to break the ice of like kind of speaking in character for the first time. Again, I don't really have any problems with public speaking, as again, acting is my profession, so I have done it a lot. But for some reason, I cannot remember the last time I was so insanely nervous about just saying my in-character name in this public speaking class, which was a very odd feeling. I also found myself being very moved by the other people who were there, because I feel like a lot of those people were not comfortable with public speaking, but they were still there and they were still so passionate, and they just wanted to be a part of it, and that was just like an amazing experience. So already my emotions were kind of like at a high, and I would say my nervous system was already heading towards the fried section. So the next step for me was to check into the travel lodge. Yes, I know. Everyone's like, what? Check into the travel lodge? That's not a part of the thing. Well, we had a tent in the in-character area that we had as a base, and for our hall we had set up everything and we wanted to decorate it, but I had decided that I was not going to sleep there. And that is from a few different reasons. For me, I have a very low social battery, so I sometimes need to just go out and recharge. And for me to be able to survive the whole weekend in the way that I wanted to, I expected that I needed to be able to go back and have a shower and sleep in a bed and just kind of take myself out of it for a little bit. So we went back to the travel lodge, please no judgment. And we checked in there, and I got on some of my kit, and I went back into the tent and did some of my makeup for my character. And then I went to the last meeting before time in, which was a magic information meeting. And that was an incredible thing to take part in, because I am playing a mystic in the nation of Wintermark. And I was going to deal with a lot of ritual magic, which is something that I had read about again, but I wasn't completely understanding how it worked in the context of the game. So I listened to this introduction, which was great, and you get to ask questions. I left that also slightly confused. Again, it's just such a vast and incredible universe. So I was like, right, okay. And I went to grab some food in the out of character area, and it went 6 o'clock, which is basically game time. And I thought, right, once I head back in now to the main camp, everyone will be in character. Time to go. Bring on your character, you know, who is this character? So I set myself up for that, really psyched myself up, and then I entered in, and I don't know what I expected. I think I expected it to be more artificial. I don't know how to explain, but often as an actor, or if you're doing these like big, grand things, it's a bit artificial, doesn't feel so grounded if you do theater work. Depending of course on the play, and even with improv that I've done before, it's always like very heightened, because it's all about, you know, creating something completely from scratch. But this was like a really strange in-between for me, and it was because not only was it that I couldn't completely prepare as an actor, I couldn't learn my script because of it is improvisation, and I couldn't completely prepare, but also it wasn't completely improvised, because a lot of the universe, or all of the universe, is very established, and there are certain rules and there are things that are already in place. So I went in and I was lost. And that was a feeling that I had not expected to have. I felt really unsure of myself. I felt really out of place, which again was feelings that would be the last thing that I would have said that I would feel if someone asked me, oh, well, how do you think you're gonna find this LARP? I know from before that when people ask me, I said, oh, it's gonna be so easy for me because you know, that'll just be so natural to me. Well, I'm saying this in the best possible way, and it's actually that I think I went in with too much, and it was actually a lot easier and more freeing and more relaxed than I thought it was gonna be. So the first day in character, which was the Friday, started off in the evening from 6 p.m. I wandered around and I was kind of expecting people to come and start conversation with me. I don't know why. I honestly think I suffer from like main character syndrome, which is not great. And I think this was a very humbling experience because I was like, oh, I'm new to Anvil. I'm sure everyone would want to know my story, or people would want to like, oh, who is this new person? But actually, people have their own stories that are just so vast and already so established that they're dealing with their own things, and they have more than enough things to deal with in their own life, if not like saying hi to every random new person who's shown up in Anvil. So I just wondered for a while, and I thought, wow, is this it? So I even ended up going into the tent a few times and just sitting in there, and I'm like, really? Am I one of those people who find myself hiding in my tent at this LARP? Oops, my phone just fell down. And I had actually read online before that people said, what is the top thing or top hobby that you are testing out that didn't turn out the way that you hoped it would be? And in this Reddit post, it said LARPing, that people were really not having a good time. And I was like, that, before I went in, I was like, that can never happen to me because it's so on paper what I want to do and what I think I would love to do and be great at. So when I sat in that tent, I was like, I can't believe that I am here in this situation where I'm like, I don't really know how to approach people, because I felt like I was kind of like invading everyone's stories. And of course, this is all in my head because it is the most welcoming and amazing group of people that I have ever met. But yeah, on that Friday, I was in the tent and I spoke to my friend who in the game played my brother, and I was like, I don't really know if I'm good at this at all. And that is, again, coming from like a perfectionist thing. I was just already like an hour in, I was judging myself because I felt like I wasn't a good enough LARPer. I mean, it's absolutely insane. It was, I really needed this weekend at Empire. Anyway, so I decided that I was gonna try and involve myself in some things that were going on. And what is great is that there is some big events that are going on that you can get invited to, and they're very good with new players. In Wintermark, I found that they are amazing at including new players, and as I said, I played a Mystic, and the Mystics had a big meeting in the forest at that same night, and I went to it and it felt amazing. But again, I felt like everyone was a part of something that I didn't understand, and for some reason I found that so difficult in my head. But yeah, I went to this meeting and it was incredible, and it was in the dark, and it was just so like such an amazing experience. But again, I felt like maybe I was still very on the outside of it. So we actually went to bed quite early on that Friday because we had gotten up really early. So I think we ended up back at the Travel Lodge around midnight, and I was completely drained. I was so emotionally drained, I was so physically drained, and I was like, right, there is a great chance that I might just pack up and go home, but I'm gonna give this a second day. I'm gonna give this a second try. I have to, because on paper, again, this is so what I want to do. So Saturday, we woke up really early because my friend was gonna go and join the battle for the first time, so we had to be ready early in the morning. We made it back to the campsite around 10 a.m. in the morning, which for me is very early, as I don't tend to exist before 10 a.m. in the morning, so being somewhere fully in costume at 9 a.m. was really something new. But yeah, so we were there, and then it was ready for the first battle, which was a pretty incredible experience. I was not participating in the battle because I knew that was not what I wanted to do in the game this first time around. But I was kind of immersing myself in the preparation for it and all the like songs and battle cries and everything. So I went all the way up to the gate and saw everyone enter into battle. And then I found myself again just randomly standing around and not knowing exactly what to do. But then I decided that I was going to embrace everything. So actually on the Friday, I forgot to mention that I volunteered to get a special quest from another character because I thought I just need to involve myself more. I will feel better about that. And that quest was involving investigating something around the battlefield. I'm not going to get into detail for what that is because that is an in-character thing, and that story is something that my character Ylva is dealing with, so I will not get into detail. But anyway, it was around where the battle was happening. And I thought that this might just be something that was very specific for my nation of Wintermark, so I didn't really know if anyone else had heard about it. But I decided that I was going to just walk up to someone and ask very casually if they had heard about this. So I did, and that I'm so glad that I did, because it just kept immersing me into this amazing backstory and information that was incredible. And basically from that moment where I spoke to that character, I was involved fully. And what I realized was that more than it being this play that you're in and these characters that you're playing, I want to describe it more in my personal experience as it is kind of like a normal society, but you have put on the filter of Empire, which means that you speak in the normal ways, you deal with the normal things, but it is all about things that are in the Empire. And as I continued through the weekend, I just, more than anything, loved to see other people's stories play out in front of me. I went in thinking that I was going to be a main character in the story, and instead I found myself just absolutely loving seeing everyone else's role play and investment to the story, and it was really inspiring for me, and I learned a lot from that. And I also didn't think that I was going to get very emotionally invested because of course it is, you know, pretend and whatever, but because people give so much to the game, I was very emotionally invested, and I was actually genuinely very worried when I was waiting for my brother to come back from battle, because I knew that there was a chance that he might have died. And I always be like, yes, when you die, you just roll a new character and whatever. But it didn't feel like that when I was in the game. It felt very much like I knew this was his first battle and he might not make it back. And I found myself very like emotionally moved by that. And when he came back out, I couldn't really see him. But then I heard he was going, "Sister," and I was so relieved, even though it's so ridiculous in my brain that I got so involved. And I think that is because everyone at Empire is just so truthful to the experience, and that is what I wanted more than anything. one of my greatest fears going into LARP was that people were not going to take it seriously enough, that it was going to be very like half on, half, you know, they were going to slip up and talk about TikTok or whatever, and I was super afraid of that, but it wasn't. It was, people were extremely committed, and it was such an amazing experience. So on the Saturday we went to bed slightly later. I think we were back at the travel lodge at about 1 in the morning, and again we had to get up really early because my friend was then doing the other half of the battle the next day. So if you're in battle one day, then you have to a monster on the other day, which is playing basically the monsters that people are fighting against. So you had to get up early again. So we walked up, we were there at 9 a.m. and it is I was so tired on the Sunday, I'm not gonna lie. And I didn't have any alcohol, I didn't have anything. I was just literally so emotionally drained from everything that I had consumed of like music and songs and people and stories and everything. I was really so tired, and my body was really achy, and my stupid shoes that wasn't good enough was really giving me a hard time. But yeah, the Sunday was also just an amazing experience. There was not a battle, it was a horrible one. A lot of people passed, I think over 100 people, 100 characters died, which again I found very moving and upsetting in a way that I wasn't expecting it to be. I did my first ritual, which was very meaningful to me, and that made me understand a little bit more how that worked, which I was very thankful that someone would kindly talk me through the day before. Again, everyone is so helpful. And yeah, I also tried to take some time to journal everything into a book so that I wouldn't forget it. And I think that's also why, again, I wanted to make this video so I wouldn't forget it. Because we're going into the long dark now, which is the long duration between the September event and the April event. And since the September was my first one, I would go in, you know, full on in September, and then it's kind of so long until I get to be back in Anvil. So I wanted to record this also for my own purposes. So as I have seen online in the Facebook groups and in the Discord, I have seen that it's very common to do the hots and nots. So I'm gonna do my own short version of that for my first event. And I will start with the knots, and they are honestly all mine. It was my mindset going in, it was how I dealt with it all on the Friday, it was also how I punished myself for not being where I wanted to be on the Friday, which is absolutely ridiculous because you meet people who have been immersed in this world for 10, 15 years. And I come in and think that I'm just gonna rock up and everything's just gonna roll off. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So all the knots are definitely going to me, 100% to me. And another knot for me is that I should have brought more light. It was definitely very dark at night, which is also another thing that I should have obviously thought about. But when there isn't any electricity in a way, it gets darker than you think. And we had some lanterns with us, but we should really have some more lights around our tent and that kind of stuff, because a lot of the other camps were just these amazing places where people were sitting around a fire. So that would be for next time for sure. Another knot is I should have had better shoes. Even though I was prepared, everyone was always saying in every YouTube video and every podcast I ever listened to, you must have good shoes. And I thought I had good shoes. I had bought some boots that I thought was really decent, and they were not. So I think we averaged around 20,000 steps a day, just because you are trekking around, you want to see everything, you're trying to find your friends. It's by the way, that's another thing, if you lose your friends in Anvil, they are gone. But yeah, I need better shoes for sure. And the last thing on the knots is I should have brought more thermals. I had one I should have brought more. I actually love the cold, but one of the nights it went down to almost -degrees. And even though I wasn't sleeping there, I could feel the cold very severely. So next time, so over to the hots. There are so many things, really. The people are incredible. It's an extremely inclusive and welcoming and accepting and freeing space to be. So thank you so much for that. It's also a bit frustrating in a way, because here you have 4,000 people over a weekend managing to be so inclusive and accepting of everyone, and then you're thinking, why can't the world be like that? Why do we have to be in like a fantasy setting for people to actually be decent? That's a whole other thing. But yeah, it was also all the things that I got to do with the mystics I really enjoyed, and I think one of my absolute favorite things were Songs and Stories, which is an event that is going on in another nation called Navarre. Navarre camp is very close to the Wintermark camp, so I just had to go into the forest basically, which I also loved. And it's this amazing place where people come to perform, as in the name, Songs and Stories, a song, a story, a poem, a little play, whatever they like. And it is incredible. I absolutely loved seeing everyone who had created these amazing pieces of work in the context of Empire. And I had myself actually written a song, because that's something that I feel very comfortable with. And again, I was so nervous, which is crazy, but it was so accepting. And when you say you're new to Anvil, everyone is so accepting. So about halfway through Songs and Stories, we got interrupted by a group of Navari that would come in because they wanted to honor some of their friends who had fallen in battle that day. And that was an incredibly powerful experience. Again, I was so moved by it. They were singing, but they were singing like with their whole like soul, and it was really powerful. And I absolutely loved being part of it. And also they were singing a song that clearly a lot of the other Navars, if not all of them, knew, so they were kind of chiming in, and I just loved it. It was incredible. So I definitely would say that that's one of my absolute highlights of the weekend was Songs and Stories, and I will definitely be returning. The talent that is there is amazing, and people are just so free, and there's like no judgment against anything. So yeah, just 10 out of 10 for that. But yes, that was overall my experience at my first ever Empire LARP event. Thank you for listening.